I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn this over to some question and answer, because I want this to be very, very helpful for you to find out what you need to make your decisions. Okay? So, but first what I want to do is really talk to you about two things. I want to talk to you about engineering, and really what I want to talk to you about is engineering from the perspective of a profession. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about the college search process. Now, I know being at different levels, you are probably at different stages in that college search process, from thinking about beginning to probably starting to worry about it. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Okay? So, engineering. What do engineers do? Yes, sir.
Build
Build.
buildings and design.
Design. Somebody said solve problems, right? What else? Is that all they do? No. Okay. Then when you say no, then you have to follow that on.
They could also discover new.
Discover. Good. Good. Discover something new, something that hasn't been discovered before, right? What, in your mind, are attributes of a good engineer? Problem solving. Good. Yes, sir. Creativity. Open. Oh, that's a good one. Open-mindedness. Organized. You haven't said the most obvious ones that I typically hear, which are, what do you think those are? Okay, stretch that a little bit. Good at math. Science, right? Good with your hands, yeah, all great things. In fact, have you ever heard someone tell you, you know what, you're good at math and science, you need to go study engineering. Has anybody told you that? Let me get you to think about something. I'm not disagreeing with that, but let me get you to think about something. Y'all have foreign language here at Hoover?
Yes.
Yeah. So French, Spanish, German? Yes? Latin? Okay, good. So anybody Spanish? Okay, and how many years of Spanish have you had? 4. Fantastic. You know what? You're really good at Spanish. You need to go live in Madrid. Does that make any sense? She's good at Spanish, but maybe she doesn't want to go to Spain, right? You're good at math and science, you need to study engineering. It's the same thing, isn't it? It could be true, but there needs to be more to it. There needs to be more to it, and I'll come back and talk about that. So yes, you have to be good at math and science, but there is more to it. Creativity, design, discover, those were mentioned. Let me get you to think about something else. Engineers solve problems. That's what we do. And we use tools of the trade, which happen to be mathematics and science. Those are the tools that we use. But we solve problems. Now what's real important to understand is we have to solve problems with an open mind. I like that. And we have to solve problems that are in a very creative way. You know, digital music players, you know, devices that play MP3 files or what have you. I've designed one and built one. I can go down to Radio Shack and get the parts, and I sell them on the internet. How many people have my digital music player? Oh, come on. Nobody has my digital music player. How many people have an iPad, iPod, iPhone, whatever, or an Android device, smartphone? Okay, but nobody has mine. Mine plays music. It's the Whitaker digital music player. You haven't heard of it? So what does all that mean? I solved the problem, didn't I? But nobody wants it, obviously. It wasn't a creative solution to the problem. Why do you think an iPad, an iPhone, iPod is so popular? It plays music, right? It plays music just like mine does.
But it does more.
It does other things.
iPhone, you can call people.
Call people, does other things, all right? What else? Okay, movies, good idea. Wi-Fi, network capabilities, what else?
Download stuff.
Good, don't think technical, what else?
Small.
Small. It's cool. That's the most important thing. It's cool. It was a creative solution to a problem. It's cool. People like the way it looks. People want it. The fact that it plays digital music files, that's a given. Right? You expected that. So the engineers that helped design an iPod or an iPhone or an iPad needed to come up with a creative solution. It wasn't enough to just solve the problem to play a file, right? That makes sense? Let me give you another example. How many people drove to school today? Okay, handful of you. What kind of car? Camry.
Ford
Escape. Come on, give it to me. Ford Edge. Jeep. All right, now, every single one of those got you from home to here, right? It solved the problem. But they're all different. Jeep is different from a Ford Edge, correct? But they all solve the problem. What's different about them? Yes, it's a creative solution. You know, when you're in mathematics or chemistry or physics or your science class, what have you, a lot of times you're solving problems and there's an answer at the back of the book, right? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Work on the problem, look at the back of the book. Did I get the right answer? Right? You ever fretted about that? Oh, what's the right answer? What's that? What's the right answer? Well, getting you from home to school, there obviously is not one right answer, is there? There's an infinite number of possible solutions. What's the right one? I don't know. It depends on what the constraints are. Cost, safety, design, the color, right? So speed, I like that. Speed. Availability. So you see what I'm getting at? Is it's not enough just to say there is the solution. In engineering, we solve problems using math and science. Those are the languages we speak. But we have to be creative, and we have to understand the constraints. We have to design a product that people want for whatever reason. And when you solve problems in engineering, there could be all kinds of different problems. You might be challenged with having to build the fastest, challenged to build the cheapest, or challenged to build the smallest, or the biggest, or the lightest. I mean, it just depends on what the constraints are. So there's no answer at the back of the book. That's something that's different about engineering if you compare it to perhaps the sciences. A lot of times in the sciences, there is a specific answer. But in engineering, the answer depends on what the constraints are. What is it that you're trying to do for the people that you're solving the problems for? Does that make sense? So engineers solve problems creatively. That's something that I want you to think about. Math and science, back to my math and science comment. You're good at math and science. Well, you need to understand the languages. You need to be able to speak. Just like if you did go to Madrid, you'd have to speak some Spanish. But you don't have to speak Spanish as well as people that live in Spain in order to get around Madrid, right? So in engineering, you have to be able to speak mathematics. Sometimes I talk with students and they say, well, I'm not the best math student at Hoover. Well, if you were, I would recommend that you major in mathematics. In engineering, you need to be able to speak the language. That's all. You need to be able to speak the language. It's important. Sometimes I talk with students who are interested in engineering and they tell me, yes, I like math, I like science, I really don't like that English stuff. You ever hear that?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this up front. You don't like that English stuff? You go into engineering, you're going to be phenomenally unsuccessful. Because whatever it is you design, whatever it is you build, whatever problem it is you solve, if you can't communicate it to somebody, it is going nowhere. English is just as important in solving engineering. Okay. We talk about the college search process a little bit. Now I know all of you are at various stages, but let me talk through this a little bit. I find that students are very, very good at one element of the college search process. And then there's another element or two that sometimes they're not too good at, or perhaps they hadn't even thought about. The element that students are really, really good at is identifying institutions that have what they want to study. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to study mechanical engineering. You can go online, read about a university, look at their undergraduate catalog, and you can find out if they have a degree in mechanical engineering, right? If you want to study aerospace engineering and you decide to go to UAB, you've got a problem. Why?
They don't have it.
They don't have it. Students are very, very good at that element. Finding out what degrees are offered at that university. Here's something that I think students struggle with. You're probably seniors, you're probably, and juniors, you're probably looking at a handful of schools. You might have a list already. Maybe it's a list of 3, maybe it's a list of 6, maybe it's a list of 12, I don't know. But you've got a list of schools, right? And you're going through and you're trying to figure out, this one has that, this one has this, and I'm like, you know, right? Some of you doing that? Well, here's an element that I'd ask you to think about. Which of those institutions that you're considering fits? Now you may say, what is he talking about? Does it fit? And ultimately, you're the only one that can answer that. But let me describe that a little bit more. We're at Hoover High School right now. Who is your big rival?
Stadium.
Ooh, the stadium. Oh, I hate that. The stadium. All right. Today's Thursday, right? All right, let's say this weekend, your parents tell you, guess what? Monday morning, you're going to Vestavia. Oh. How do you feel about that? Not good. Why? They're your rivals. That doesn't tell me why. Why?
They don't fit the same personality as this school.
Personality. Now, I would argue that they have buildings in Vestavia. They have teachers. They have a cafeteria. They have a parking lot. They have all the stuff you have here.
They don't have like the old aurora, like the same feelings.
The same aura. I like that. That's what I'm getting at. Does it fit? It's not the buildings. It's not the teachers. It's not the parking lot. It's not the corn dogs in the lunchroom. It's the fit. Now, how do you know if a university fits? It's somewhat of a rhetorical question on my part, because only you can answer that. And the answer that you come up with is going to be different from the answer that you come up with. You may like the corn dogs we have at Alabama. You may like the marching band we have at Alabama. You may like the trees we have at Alabama. I don't know what it is. And at some level, it doesn't really matter. It's important to you. So does it fit? How do you determine that? Well, what I would say, the first thing you need to do is you need to visit. So all those institutions that you're thinking about, you need to visit. Just like going to the shoe store and trying on some shoes, right? Gotta try them on, see if they fit.